a 747 and they have four big engines on the wings, you have a throttle that you push forward and you push all four together. All engines go up together. We have the same thing in our bodies. We have our oxygen levels, which are tied to pH, which is tied to, believe it or not, carbon dioxide levels, which all correlate with cell voltage. So when we have anything happen to us, anything at all, we either go, usually we have a very healthy level of cell voltage and oxygen and pH, ideal pH, everybody knows what that is. And very few people know and understand about CO2 and how that drives everything. So what happens is when you do anything wrong, including get angry or get emotional or get depressed or eat the wrong food or live in a city or drive in a car or have our Wi-Fi sitting in front of us or the cell tower next door, whatever stress we have weakens us, meaning it turns us more acidic, which drives down pH, gets us more acidic, which drives down oxygen levels, and so the cells and tissues become starved for oxygen. And why is all of this happening? It all happens because our CO2 levels are dropping. As people get weaker in CO2, they get lower in oxygen because you can't have oxygen without CO2.
Right, there's a feedback loop. Folks, I'd like to make an announcement, if I may. It appears that the strange and wondrous deities of the internet have decided to allow the recording of this program to actually start now, about 20 minutes into the program. Folks, you are listening to the Dr. Rima Truth Reports. Today is the last day of September in the year 2012. You're listening to us over ustream.tv or at www.healthfreedomportal.org. Dr. Rima's guest today is Dr. Mark Sircus, OMD. Dr. Sircus, back to you.
So let's just take breathing, which now, let me see, on my protocol is number 5, breathing retraining. Everybody, just about everybody, unless you're a long-time yoga master, is breathing too fast. Everybody's breathing too, Westerners don't breathe correctly. And when we're in stress or deficient in minerals and nutrition, we get sicker and we get breathing faster and faster and faster. And what does that mean? When we breathe faster, you would think we're getting more air, but actually we're getting less. Because what are we doing when we breathe fast? We're getting rid of CO2. Oh, that's a good thing, right? We want to get rid of CO2. That's a poisonous gas. We don't want CO2. Well, this is ridiculous because without CO2, the CO2 levels drop, so does oxygen. People don't, medical and scientists and doctors don't like to look at the fact that we go down in CO2, which is a food for plants. CO2 is food. We don't live on this planet without CO2. There is no plants without CO2. And in our bloodstream, there's no oxygen without CO2 because we breathe for CO2. We breathe as a response to CO2, not in response to oxygen. So this is like these 4 engines and cell voltage. Finding out that pH tracks with cell voltage, meaning if you take
that's interesting, Doctor. Static charge, of course, cell voltage, if you will, is almost certainly the driving force behind what the homeopaths would call the innate intelligence, or the chiropractors would call it that. This is all about energy, then, isn't it?
Right. So when we talk about cell voltage and pH, now there's a whole universe of people and sites that talk about pH, and you want to become alkaline and alkaline water, and you don't want to be, everybody's too acidic. But they don't talk about voltage. With voltage, you can jump anywhere because you're talking into frequency and vibration. You get into vibrational medicine and the whole universe of emotions and feelings, and that we really are human beings that are alive and have energy, instead of pieces of brick that doctors just smash with their bats, chemical bats and the radiation bats and their scalpels. So it's very interesting because now what does this mean? What I'm saying is that the cheapest medicine in the world is sodium bicarbonate, and it happens to be in the top. Well, in my list, it's number two. I still list magnesium as number one, but the cheapest medicine in the world is the most powerful. Why? Because it increases pH, increases cell voltage, increases oxygen, and directly increases CO2. That's how it works. Sodium bicarbonate, you drink it, it goes into the stomach, turns into CO2, and drives up CO2 in the blood. That's funny. But it also drives up oxygen levels, and that's why how it works, and that's why it's a good cancer agent, because it immediately changes cell voltage, pH, oxygen, and CO2. So we have this unification point at the bottom of physiology where and then you add water into the mix, and then we're totally, we're at operational level of, like if you build a 50-story tower, what's happening in the foundation? We found this out, of course, at the World Trade Center. If you have an explosion down there in the basement, the whole building can come down, especially if you use a nuclear device. Same thing, if you have disturbances, not enough water, not enough cell voltage, acid pH, low oxygen, and low CO2, what do you get? Eventually, you get cancer. So how do you avoid that? You keep your oxygen levels high. How do you do that cheaply and efficiently and not even need a doctor? All you need is two things. There's more things to help it out, but the basic things, you need sodium bicarbonate, and you need to learn how to breathe slowly. And you can buy a $45 machine for $100, you can treat yourself for a year. Meaning you could buy 50 pounds of sodium bicarbonate, and this $45 breathing device. And with these two things alone, you can vastly increase, and instantly increase oxygen levels and cell voltage. So it's
Dr. Mark,
Yeah.
Dr. Mark, would you tell us where people can get this $45 machine so that we can put that on our chat and people will have access to it?
In fact, your website too, sir. Your website, please.
Yes, my website is going to be changing in a week. I have 22 sites, one on sodium bicarbonate, iodine, my IMDA site, on and on and on. And my son, my 17-year-old son, for a year has been working on changing that all to one big site, which is going to be drsircus.com.
It's going to be DR Sircus?
DR
Yep.
Sircus,
Yep.
SIRCUS.com. It's
Got
not
it.
online yet, but in about 7-8 days it will be. My present site right now is my best site to go to right now is blog.imva.info, and I already gave you the publication site, publications.imva.info. And what was that last question?
Your new site.
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah,
I have that on the screen right now.
And when I launch that site, I'm going to be launching a Winning the War on Cancer Month campaign. Actually, for the next 2 months, I'm going to be publishing probably 20 or 25 essays. And I literally am going to win the war on cancer in that month, meaning I'm going to overwhelm the, I'm not sure what to call it, the matrix of what everybody's thinking. I am going to inject some new information written in a very nice way. I have the general would love this. I wrote this 2 months ago, and I had never published it because it's for the second edition of my Winning the War on Cancer book. But it's a picture on the top of a military operation where it's like creating a crossfire. On one side you see tanks coming and then helicopters and everybody shooting into the middle. And it's a concept for military of, how to win a battle like in World War II. You lead the enemy into a trap and you shoot at them from every side at once. Well, this is my Winning the War on Cancer concept, is you overwhelm the cancer in in a military type fashion. You hit it from every side, not just from one side at a time. So that's
I
where the
agree with
protocol.
that. I agree with that. Let me tell folks that one of the big mistakes that people make is to transfer their allopathic training, which is misinformation and disinformation, that they need a pill or a a supplement or a modality, a homeopathic remedy, or a something to treat a chronic degenerative disease, which is the result of many, 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 many breakdowns and deteriorations in the body and the heart and the mind and the spirit. And so they say, well, I tried this and that didn't work, so now I'll go to the next thing and try that. And I agree with you. When I treat chronic degenerative diseases, I use everything I have in my hand. I use herbs, I use nutrients, I use um, pH regulation. I teach people breathing. I use many times intravenous um, nutrition. I use frequency, and I use it all at the same time because they're all coming at it, as you say, as a military campaign, throwing everything you've got at the enemy because you don't want the enemy crawling out of the battlefield, regrouping and coming back at you, now knowing your tricks. In other words, you don't want cancer to mutate the way it does when cancer cells are not killed by chemotherapy. They come back stronger and more aggressive because the
Correct.
chemotherapy agents or the radiation has actually caused them to mutate into more aggressive forms. So I want to let people know how important, to underscore how important what you're saying is.
Also, just to backtrack and go back to your theories, of course, when the pH changes, and of course the cell voltage, oxygen, and CO2 change, then we set the condition where genetic changes are happening. Genes are very sensitive to pH, so once a cell gets too out of control, then of course there's no going back with genetics. But if the cell is unhealthy but still not cancerous, then you can return it to normal. One of my favorite.
Well, I have to disagree with you there.
So,
There have been many, many, many well documented cases, and I'm sure they've occurred in your hands too, in which people with those genetic changes, let's talk about cancer, for instance, but it's only an exemplar of the entire spectrum of genetic changes. People with those changes already on board, already diagnosed under correct treatment, go back to the same diagnosing folks, their allopathic physicians, and all signs of the supposedly um, terminal cancer or the completely incurable diabetes or whatever are gone to the best diagnostic skills of the Western medicine system, which has some very good diagnostic skills, by the way. So that means to me that the genome has been repaired or the disease would not be absent and not just in remission or in abeyance or under control. Dr. Nick Gonzalez is a wonderful doctor and has specialized in treating cancers with high doses of enzymes, especially pancreatic cancer, which he's most well known for in New York. Dr. Gonzalez has has said that cancer is a chronic degenerative disease like diabetes, and you don't cure it, you get rid of it. Well, Nick is wrong. You can get rid of it if you do the right things, and that means, to my mind, that one is then repairing the genome, or the cancer wouldn't be gone. And I'm sure you've had that happen to you because I know the kinds of treatments you use.
Isn't that also, for example, there have been some studies with resveratrol and some other antioxidants that seem to suggest that the DNA can repair itself?
well, I think you misunderstood me. I'm saying I am agreeing with you that once a cell is cancerous and out of control, it has to die. we don't repair those cells and send them back into the good camp. The body gets rid of them. Um, so there's a point of no return as far as I'm concerned with genetics. But there's a point where the genetics is being depressed or distorted in the healthy cells. And it's not like goes from zero, everything is perfect, to cancer, everything is crazy in the genetic level. That when things move in the wrong direction, there is a point of no return where the cell is just lost. But there's a point where you create the conditions and the genetic materials and the organization will return, back to center. So I do agree, and about in fact, my mentor in life, Dr. Christopher Hills, who's the man who's responsible for bringing spirulina to the world, he used to say that our genes and the DNA were responsive to our imaginations, and that you could reprogram the genetic material with our imaginations. And I do believe that, even though that's very difficult and to understand. I do believe that the deepest aspect of our physiology is responsive to our highest consciousness. So,
well, as a matter of fact, I have been involved with publishing a series of papers, approximately 50 of them, published in mathematical physics and toxicology journals around the world, with our co-author, the first author actually, Michel Bunyas, which documents and demonstrates that same thing. Bruce Lipton wrote a magnificent book called The Biology of Belief, which documents that same thing. It's not just spiritual or religious or New Age mumbo jumbo. It's hard physiology, biochemistry, and genetic fact. We tend not to think about that, because imagine how many drugs we wouldn't sell if the entire population knew that they had that power. When long before I met him, when General Burt was on active duty, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and it was on a Friday afternoon at Walter Reed Hospital. And he was told that on Monday morning he would be operated upon. And he said, well, what happens between now and then? And they said, nothing, sir. And he said, you mean that I just lie here from Friday afternoon until Monday morning and nothing happens? And they said, yes, sir, that's right. And he said, well, that's bullshit. And he went into a meditative he's a very direct kind of guy. He went into a meditative state, and 45 minutes later he called the commanding officer of the hospital, a colonel. He was at that time a 2-star general. And he said, I'd like you to take another x-ray. And the colonel said, well, that's not necessary, sir. We know what's there. We just took an x-ray. And he said, Colonel, please take another x-ray, because he outranked the colonel. The colonel took another x-ray, and the cancer was gone. He said, bye, see ya, and left the hospital. His ex-wife, by the way, was very angry with him because he cured himself. She had sternly warned him not to do anything to cure himself, because she didn't, and I quote, believe, end quote, in that stuff. So he left the hospital. 3 weeks later, the pain and symptoms were back, and he realized that he had not told the cancer to stay away. He had only told the cancer to go away. So he went back to the hospital in significant pain, and they took another x-ray, and they said, ha, 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 there it is. See, we got our cancer. And he went back into a meditative state for another 45 minutes and told the cancer not only to go away, but to stay away, visioned it, directed it, cleaned his cells with his intentionality alone, and then said to the colonel, please take another x-ray. And the colonel said, sir, we don't have, and Burt said, please take another x-ray, Colonel. So the colonel did, and the cancer was gone. That was in, 1984. We have those 4 x-rays.
Wow.
Intentionality is a potent reality.
You know, General Burt did a little 6-minute video, or we extracted a 6-minute video from a longer one, where he talks about intentionality and cleansing the cells with light. So if you look on the healthfreedomusa.org website, one of the 50 or 60 videos on that website is General Burt on intentionality.
There was a video I saw about a month or two ago. It was from a gentleman, I don't remember his name, but he was involved with Heart Math, an institute in Boulder Creek, California. And there was a video of a hospital in China where a woman had a tumor. I forgot where the tumor was. They brought her into a room where they had one of these diagnostic machines where they diagnose the pregnancy, sonogram.
Right.
Ultrasound.
Oh yeah, and they had the picture and they showed you the tumor, and then they later, they showed the tumor and then they put another one picture next to it showing the tumor again in live time, and there were three guys who came into the room, and they started, and they're like a mastermind. The three are like group consciousness, and they started chanting and whatever, doing this kind of thing, sound, and they just kept increasing it, and basically they were imagining in their hearts, in their hearts and in their imaginations, the cancer gone. And towards the end of this like 2-minute segment, they got more and more intense, and you could actually see on the instrumentation the tumor disappearing in real time down to zero.
Nice.
Amazing. And it's basically, what you're talking about. And this gentleman was talking about the power of our heart, which of course is, I wrote a book about this called Heart Health, that the power, for me, my strength and my health, I'm known as the magnesium man. I probably take more magnesium than anybody on the planet, but get more magnesium massages. But what was I going to say? Help me. I just lost myself.
Consciousness.
Where was I going?
You were going to the fact that consciousness and intentionality reprogram the genome.
Exactly.
Right. So the power of the heart is very, very strong. If we decide something and then channel that through our imagination, like in meditation, there really are no limits that we know of.
What I find interesting on this lesson is that the Qigong masters who were disappearing that tumor, they were using the sound vibration to carry their intentionality to the person. If General Burt just went inside and did it himself because he was doing it to himself, the people on the outside needed some way of carrying the intentionality or energy to the other person. All of your healing methods, unless maybe Freudian talk, all of the healing methods that you guys use involve bringing something to the person, some energy, some substance. I find that very interesting. Listening, this is a fascinating discussion. Listening to two world-class healers here on the Dr. Rima Truth Reports, absolutely extraordinary.
When we get into this whole thing about cell voltage and frequency and vibration, and also this huge controversy about the cell towers and cell phones and all the different types of pollution that are all around us and kind of falling down on us like a rainstorm. For me, like in the imagination, in the center of a cell, in the center of all of our cells, is a nuclear force even stronger than the DNA, and it's like represented by our heart energy. When our hearts are open, there's a congruent force field that interpenetrates the cells and anchors them and holds them into a healthy frequency vibration, and then our whole self and what we expect radiate into the world around us is very dependent on how open our hearts are. My heart, I'm probably one of the most vulnerable, open people in the world. I show that online all the time in my writings and what I'm willing to share with people. It gives me a power that goes down into my genetic code, meaning everything down to my roots is vibrating at a stronger frequency, a stronger energy. And this, well, to me, it's one of the secrets of life. Open
we see
love, compassion, empathy.
You can
including
see
like
that.
the general love for oneself.
Right. You can see
And he
that in
was
some
loving
people.
himself. He wasn't going to sit around for 2 days doing nothing. He just went right into action, and his action was very powerful. And it comes from the heart. It comes from the will to live.
I'm sure you know, Dr. Mark, the research that comes from France, from the United States, and from Russia, and it emerged pretty much simultaneously. And as a matter of fact, we had researchers from France, Russia, and the United States come together to present this at one of the international meetings that I ran. The research that shows that thought and intentionality beamed at a cuvette, a container of pure DNA inside a machine that can actually examine the configuration of the DNA through crystallography, or spectrophotometry, that loving thoughts, this is much like water, but loving thoughts beam toward the DNA. Accepting thoughts cause the DNA to uncoil, to become more open, literally open, and hating thoughts or angry thoughts toward the DNA cause the DNA to change its angle of rotation and get smaller, to contract, which is exactly what we do. We talk about being open. We talk about being closed. We talk about feeling safe and opening up. We talk about being under attack and closing down. These are metaphors that are not metaphors at all. They are deep physiological, genomic realities, and they are repeatable again and again and again and again. Then the researchers, and I know that you know about this research, then the researchers they emptied out the cuvettes. They cleaned them out and got them ready for the next experiment. And part of the procedure is to check the empty cuvette in the machine. A cuvette is basically a special little container that you can put samples in and measure things while they're in there. So they check the cuvette to make sure that the cleaning has gotten rid of all of the stuff that they were looking at last time they used it, because cuvettes are made of special quartz and they're very expensive, so you don't throw them away. And they found remnants, they found an energetic print of the DNA. And so they cleaned out the cuvette again. I'm sure they called the lab technician on the carpet and said, listen, you idiot, you're supposed to clean these things out, and there's still DNA in there. No, sir, I cleaned it out really well. There's no DNA in there. Sure it is, look. And so I'm sure that went on. And finally, they realized that what they were getting was the energetic shadow, the imprint. I don't mean shadow in the Jungian sense. I mean the energetic print left in the world, in the environment, in the physical reality of the DNA which had been present and was no longer present at the physical molecular level. That DNA could be contracted or expanded based on the same intentionality principle. We leave our lingering print of our energy where we are not physically. What does that mean to me? It means that we are connected.
For certain.
We are connected. And
You know,
so the
your friend.
intentionality.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, your friend William Tiller did a lot of work in that area of conditioned space and intentionality.
Exactly.
This is making me think about, and I'd like to announce to everybody who's listening, and this is a real medical revolution, and it's a real win for us, and a real loss for the pharmaceutical industry, is as of about a week ago, believe it or not, a new form, not a new form, but a form of medical marijuana is now legal everywhere in the United States and everywhere in the world, or at least 171 countries. That there's a company in Colorado that started shipping a week ago CBD, how do you say it? Cannabidiol, which is the medical marijuana without the THC. There's a company that got this past the FDA, the DEA, and the FTC, and is now shipping. And the cannabinoid medicine in general, forget about the THC and getting high, is a molecule of communication. It's a molecule that goes into a system, a cannabinoid system, that has a certain effect. And it reminds me of what you're talking about, meaning when you talk about our consciousness and how it can contract the genetic material or expand and relax. My assistant just got the first shipment of the CBD in the other day, and just from what she said, it sounded exactly like that. It's pain relief. The one thing about cannabinoid medicine, cannabinoids are molecules that help with communication, and a little bit like NO2.
So you're saying basically it's the herb with the THC extracted.
Exactly. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly their process.
Yeah.
Where they grow it. I know that you can grow marijuana to not have THC. So, but this company has come out with a fantastic product, very strong.
No, genetically modified pot.
It's not inexpensive, but as a cancer treatment, it's number 7 in my protocol, right after glutathione, which is number 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, I'll get the address for everybody. Let me see. Hold on, so I have that. It's called Dixie X. The address. The address is DIXIEE. No, excuse me.
I'm going to type it out on the screen. So let me know.
I need to find the Dixie X.
It's very interesting. My ability to stop to type on the chat has just disappeared. I can see the chat, but I can't type on it. Now,
those same mysterious deities of the internet.
What?
The address is Dixie, DIXIEX, DixieX.com.
Got it up here. Okay.
And you can go right to the site and you can buy. They have a liquid. You can drop it under your tongue. They have a cream, a salve, and they have a pill form. And of course, this is a home run for us. The pharmaceutical industry doesn't have anything quite like this. It's not a synthetic. Medical marijuana is known for incredibly broad-ranging effects. It beats out aspirin. It's one of the safest drugs, medicines, medicinal, whatever you want to call it, that exists out there. So in the cancer protocol, in neurological diseases, in diabetes, I mean, you name it. This is a huge tool that we are being given. And I'm going to be getting very much involved. Of course, I have a book I published in January on medical marijuana. So I've been waiting for about a year for this. And it makes my protocol legal. In fact, after all this work, listen to this. After all the work and the millions and hundreds of millions of dollars governments around the world have been spending, and the pharmaceutical companies to try to annihilate natural medicine and to make everything difficult or impossible to get, in the end, they've lost brutally. Now, I have a protocol. I can stand up on top of a mountain and scream that this is the best program to cure cancer. It includes this CBD. It'll do it inexpensively, and it's legal. Every item in my protocol is legal, including now this medical marijuana. So they're all nutritional things. Magnesium chloride. If you inject it, of course, it's a medicine. You need a medical license, but you can drink it. You can put it on your skin. You can nebulize it. You can do many things with it. It's a medicine that can save a person's life in a second if you inject it. If you're having a stroke and there's no ambulance or doctor around, you throw a gallon or two of magnesium into a bathtub and jump into it with some bicarbonate, and you'll get almost the same thing. But the bottom line, my protocol is legal. They're all concentrated nutritional substances, including the CBD, medical marijuana, is nutritional, like water is nutritional, like CO2 is nutritional. And believe me, next month, this month is yes, next month, I am going to be coming out of the corner like a heavyweight champion, and I'm going to become coming out swinging.
Outstanding. Are you patenting your protocol?
Can you do something like that? How can you patent?
The parts of it that are new and unique process may be subject to patent.
Well, the whole thing is that there's nothing unique. Like sodium bicarbonate, I would be promoting a pill or a tablet with a capsule with sodium bicarbonate and potassium bicarbonate, and to use this instead of just sodium bicarbonate. But these substances have been around for a long time. Magnesium chloride.
You didn't say Paxil. You didn't say Paxil bicarbonate, did you?
No, I said it's sodium bicarbonate and potassium bicarbonate.
Oh, potassium. I thought you said Paxil, and I thought, wait, we have the wrong guest on the show. I think that's very, very important and interesting. And I want to point out, or I want to get your perspective on the concept that I hold to very firmly, that the other side inevitably has to lose. My problem is that they do so much damage while they're in the process of losing, but they can't win because they are fundamentally flawed at the most structural level. It's like a cancer gene. A cancer gene might kill the patient, or the person that it's in, but ultimately it dies. It dies of its own weakness. It dies of its own vulnerability. It dies of its own distortions. Well, pharmaceutical medicine must die of its own distortions. It's enormously toxic and dangerous, and it's doing an enormous amount of harm at that same moment. But it cannot sustain itself. It is truly unsustainable. Radiation or nuclear power cannot sustain itself. It is the damage that it can do in the meantime can wipe out life on the planet. And I know you've written about that. You understand the Fukushima issues very, very well. And you live in a country, Brazil, which is planning to fire up its old, antiquated, very dangerous nuclear stations again. It's not, I'm not trivializing the dangers, but these things are vastly unsustainable. Natural medicine is vastly sustainable because it is nature applied. It is applied biochemistry. It is applied physiology. It works, it repairs, it sustains, it protects because it works with nature. The pharmaceutical industry can only hold out for so long because their stuff doesn't work.
Absolutely, Dr. Rima. Very, very well put. But of course, there is perhaps another agenda within the agenda, and maybe there are forces that like what's happening with pharmaceutical drugs, that applauds the 150,000 Americans who die every year from properly prescribed pharmaceutical drugs, unless it's more than that nowadays. There isn't, and you've been one of the few people who have been willing to tackle the genocidal agenda, and General Burt has even coined the phrase genomocidal agenda to talk about exactly what you're saying, this literal disruption of the genome of our species through these technologies of doom, if we can use that term.
Yeah, well, I agree. I understand what you're saying. Yesterday, even my assistant was a little nervous. I published an essay called "Oncologists are the worst people to treat cancer."
Absolutely.
And I really go to town. I really, I guess you'd say, humiliate these people. I write, oncologists do not help people with their stress. They are trained to increase it.
Right. Which of
Right.
your websites would people go to read the essay? I have the websites
So,
back up on the screen again.
so it's kind of like the shootout at the OK Corral. I just,
Yeah.
it's, yes, I do not. In fact, I tell them that they might as well retire before they're brought to court for because well, some of the most recent science that was published just recently is that chemotherapy creates more cancerous stem cells.
You know, I
So
was taught that. I didn't know about stem cells, but I was taught that the principal side effect of chemotherapy was new cancers, unrelated cell type cancers. I was taught that when I was in medical school from 1966 to 1970. This is no secret.
So why, if
well,
it, wait a minute? So if these chemotherapy agents cause cancers,
It's
what's?
a business model.
Oh, I got it now. Okay, somehow do no harm got lost in the translation there.
No, it's do no thing that doesn't cause major profit, death, disruption, and damage, because otherwise nobody would employ us. This is
Ah,
this is a sort of union activity, if you will. Doctors stay in business this way, and pharmaceutical companies maintain their hegemony by making sure that doctors stay in business. Would you agree with that, Mark?
yeah, let's read just. I'm looking at what I wrote yesterday and published. The best trained doctors in the country, from schools like Harvard Medical or any other, are ill trained to deal with today's medical realities. They are, in fact, hopelessly lost without their pharmaceutical medicines, each of which delivers a toxic wallop to the body. They were trained to be chemical witch doctors and to practice medicine solely based on prescribing harmful drugs that ultimately undermine one's health. They were totally brainwashed in medical school and throughout their internships and residencies at hospitals, and they remain oblivious to the harm they cause. Some say we should have compassion for them because they have no choice but to toe the line if they want to keep their jobs. So they're not
Compassion,
going to be.
compassion for people who intentionally use their high status and training to kill other people because it puts money in their pocket when they know that they have choices. I'm sorry, I can't find the compassion.
oh boy, are they going to love being part of the Obama death committees?
Exactly. It's like saying we should have compassion for the capos and the medical experimenters in Auschwitz, because after all, they were told that they had to do what they were doing. Excuse me. We should have compassion for their victims and educate their victims, as you are doing, as we are doing, to understand that they need be victims no longer. I can't find the compassion for people like oncologists who themselves do not choose to use chemotherapy when they or their families become ill with cancer, but they sell the stuff. I don't know if you mentioned in your essay, Mark, that in the United States, oncologists have a unique distinction, because unlike every other doctor except a kidney dialysis renologist specialist, oncologists are permitted to sell the medication that they give to patients. Everybody else would get a kickback and go to jail if they sold the patients the medicine that they prescribe. But oncologists have the concession so that they sell the patients the medication. The more medication the patient takes, the more expensive the medication is, the more money they have in their pocket. And I have no compassion for people who are knowledgeable, who choose themselves not to use chemotherapy or radiation when they themselves or their loved ones have cancer, and yet they purvey these ghastly, brutal, medieval poisons. Torquemada could do no better that they know do not work. I will remind you, listeners, because I know Dr. Mark knows this, that the American Cancer Society, which must disband according to its bylaws if a cure for cancer is ever found, so they make damn sure that no, quote, cure for cancer, end quote, is ever, quote, found, end quote, despite the fact that we have multiple cures for cancer. At the same time, these institutions understand, and these oncologists understand, that cancer chemotherapy, as they say in their own literature, the American Cancer Society, which is the American Chemical Society, really, they say that only 3% of the time is cancer chemotherapy effective in curing cancer. It is always a palliative treatment, makes the patient hideously ill, and then the patient dies because the cancer has been retrained genetically to be more aggressive. And they know this, and they don't use this crap on themselves. Where's the compassion in, maybe you're a better man than I am, Gunga Din, but for people like this, I can find no compassion.
Right, Dr.
My
Rima.
wife's been pretty impressed with me as my capacity. I built this huge place in the interior, and the guy I bought my land from and built this huge building on, he tried to steal it when I walked away from the project about 2 years ago. I ran out of money, and he did steal it, and I had to get it back through the courts and spend a lot of money. And I found in the end some empathy and compassion for this guy. So but I understand totally what you're saying. I am like in the same essay I was talking about. I talk about that the chemotherapy also weakens women's hearts. There's some studies about the increase in heart disease from chemotherapy. And this Dr. Pamela Douglas says from Duke University that in the process of curing the breast cancer, we've exposed them to some pretty nasty things. And it's not just one nasty thing, it's a sequence of nasty things, she said. And then I write, nasty is the perfect word for oncologists and what they do. They were trained to be nasty right down to their genes.
Right.
So even though they might be physically healthy, they have cancer of the heart and consciousness, as they have no empathy or compassion for anything other than their own nasty medical views.
Nice. Very nice. They have cancer of the consciousness.
Yeah, so no matter how much compassion I have for people, and I do love the human race, I'm not sure if I love the psychopaths and sociopaths. I haven't been tested. But I'm very aggressive from my heart in talking about these people. Some people think I should just be nice, so more of these doctors will accept my writings, but I can't do that. The truth is, these people are nasty, really nasty, just like you said. If you want to go into a Nazi concentration camp, go back in time and go up into the medical ward from IG Farben and sit around and bless these doctors who are just massacring these men, women, and children, well, good luck to you. But it's not me either. So I'm dedicated to coming onto the cancer field again in this next 2 months, like a pit bull, and I'm going to rip some people's consciousness apart. That's my intention.
Well, we'd love to help you. As you know, we are not shy.
No, I know that. Yes, I know that.
If anybody has tuned in because they want a gentle, sweet approach to the massacres that are being laid out for us, you're on the wrong show. And speaking of that, you are listening to the Dr. Rima Truth Reports. Our special guest is Dr. Mark Sircus, AC and OMD. He's speaking to you from Brazil, as I am speaking to you from Chile. There's a message there, folks. You might want to think about whether you want to live in a radioactive police state or not. If you do, that's excellent. But if you don't, you might want to think about the Deep South as a place to go. Dr. Sircus is an innovator, a truth teller, and I consider him a friend and colleague. And his website is www.imva.com, but it's changing. So right now...
No, excuse me, that's incorrect. It's imva.info, not .com.
That's
I
that's
get
Ichabod, Mary, Victor, Alpha, right?
I want you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
INVA. I want you to know that that stream of equivalents, Ichabod, Victor, Mary, Alpha, would have General Burt, who knows the international alphabet, on the floor, writhing in pain.
I'm sure it
Ichabod
would.
is like him. It was clever, but it's a good thing he isn't in the room. I'll tell you.
All right.
He only takes a certain level of pain.
Before I go, my time's almost up. Let me get back to answering a question. The site for that breathing device is www.breathslim.com. That's breathslim.com. It's a breathing device. It comes from Russia. It sells on for $49.95. If you use this code, IMVA hyphen 0210, you can get a 10% discount.
Oh, we're going to ask you. We're going to ask you to repeat that for us. I'm going to put it on the chat.
Ralph.
It's excellent. Very good.
It's IMVA/0210 is a special code that you can, when you buy, and they'll give you a 10% discount. This is a very simple device. It basically, you breathe. It's like a yoga training device as far as breathing, but it works instantly. You don't have to take months of yoga. It teaches you to breathe correctly. You breathe in through the nose for a count of 10. You hold to 5, and then you breathe out through this little machine. And you're breathing through water, which puts up a resistance to the breath. So it slows it down. This is a fantastic machine. This whole technology of increasing your oxygen levels through breathing, there's nothing more fundamental. So this is a wonderful thing. I published my first publication about this was the other day in an article about the tears of the melting heart. In my protocol, by the way, number 12 is it now, brand new in my protocol, even though it's old for me, is the medicine of the tears of the melting heart. That these tears, when we let our hearts melt, are very potent medicine. And breathing is a good time to get in touch with one's feelings, because when one is breathing, one's changes. When you pay attention to the breath, it changes, and it's easier to open up emotions when you're breathing slower and relaxed. So the new medical marijuana compound, we gave Dixie X. We gave the address for that already, and I would like in my closing statement, let me pull up my document, is just to share with people at least the first, let's say, 15 items of the protocol very quickly.
Please.
Number 1 is magnesium. Number 2 is carbon dioxide medicine, which is sodium and potassium bicarbonate. Number 3 is iodine. Number 4, which could be number 1, but number 4 is water, medicinal quality water. Number 5 is the air, breathing training. Number 6 is glutathione, using it orally, nebulizing it, and with suppositories. Number 7 is CBD, this medical marijuana, legal style. Number 8 is the superfoods. My favorite is this product called Rejuvenate, which is based on spirulina and chlorella, but super tasting. We feed it like, rocket fuel, for the afterburners of a jet fighter. You feed, super nutrition, you're going to get great results. Whole food vitamin C is number 9. Number 10 is selenium. With those first 10 items, forget about everything else. With those 10 items, you have the best. I'll put it out. I'm not sure exactly how to verbalize it, but as far as I'm concerned, we have a universal protocol and specifically a cure for cancer. I think those 10 items will show the highest results of any particular protocol, and I can write books about the reasons for that, and I have. But of course, we need to get into some more things. So 11 would be probiotics, 12 real salt, whole salt, like Celtic salt, Himalayan salt, real salt from the United States. Number 12, 13 organic sulfur, And then we get into 14 and 15, we'd already get into another type of medicine. 14 is tears of the melting heart. And 15, could be number 2, is the sun. And vitamin D, and using light and color therapy. But, you know, sun exposure, vitamin D, of course, is so necessary to cure cancer. So these are the 15 items of the most basic things. And then, of course, I get into intestinal health and juice fasting and nebulization. My favorite treatment for myself is magnesium massage. Is covering the body with magnesium oil and giving a massage is, to me, the super, you know, medicine for Cleopatra. Of course, there's infrared saunas and creative conflict and yoga, pancreatic enzymes. You know, to get to number 30, you know, quite a few things, a lot of holistic stuff. But my first 10, except for the breathing and the water, are all heavy-hitting medicines that are legal because they're not, you don't inject them, they're over-the-counter, they're nutritional, they're food. So I'm very happy to finally have put this together. It's years of work. And these things are also reasonably inexpensive. Magnesium is not too expensive. Bicarbonate is the cheapest thing in the world. Even though I recommend a reasonably expensive iodine, you can get Lugol's, very inexpensive. Amazing things we can do with iodine. Glutathione, of course, is, you know, increasingly being recognized in the allopathic community as a very potent thing if you administer it right. So
very good, doctor.
I'm feeling pretty.
Yeah.
I noticed that you do not have vitamin C or
Yes,
gravium. Is vitamin
yes,
C on
I'm
your
sorry.
list?
Yes, number 9.
Very good.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Sorry.
What about have you done any work with resveratrol? We've been
I've researched it,
right.
but it didn't hit my top 30.
Okay. And what about silver? Nano silver.
Silver, that would be under number 29 is a broad category where it includes cesium chloride, mistletoe, zinc oxide, which is the black salve, Cassandra cream.
Uh-huh.
I listed, and then I would put the silver in that same category also. But
interesting.
Things like zinc oxide, I don't recommend people using it so much because it's so good, so strong that you have a cancer on your nose. I would go with iodine first. But if you're really desperate, you put some of this black salve on an exposed cancer, and it'll just eat it. It'll eat it right down to its core and leave a hole in the nose or anywhere else you use it. So I've never used it. I have a jar, and I'm just.
There are some people who sell the black salves, and one of them is sitting in federal jail right now, unfortunately. But yes, that's risky stuff. Dr. Sircus, thank you so much for being here, for sharing with us what you've put together with this audience, even before you've gone live with the new website. We're really privileged to be in on it before the beginning, as it were, and we're looking forward to seeing what the drsircus.com website looks like when it's up and running in the next few weeks. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Ralph. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Give your website one more time, Dr. Mark.
I suggest people go first to blog.imva.info or my publication site, publications.imva.info. And you can see on the menu item, you can go to many of my other sites and study bicarbonate or iodine or cancer. I have a cancer site, I have a site on magnesium, so it's all visible there. And,
excellent. Your information and your passion are both very, very much appreciated.
You're breaking up, unfortunately, Dr. Sircus.
I intend to put on a show in the next 2 months.
All right, excellent.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Thank you. And email me your list.
Please.
Okay, bye-bye.
Or send it on Skype. Send it on Skype right now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That would be great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oh, excellent, Dr. Rima. What an interesting program. So far, we have 45 more minutes, and you know what time it is. You know what time it is, don't you?
It's time to talk about coffee.
It sure is. Let
It's
me
time to
put
talk
up the
about
screen.
donations. It's time to talk about money. Let's talk about coffee first. Coffee, which you can get from www. Where are we? I have to get.
It's
there
right
we go.
here.
www.valleyofthemooncoffee COFFEE.org. Valley of the Moon
Oh,
Coffee.
.com.
We grow it.
Work.
It's absolutely delicious. It's grown without any kind of toxic chemical. We're in the process of applying for our organic certification, which is very exciting, especially in Panama, where there are certain difficulties in getting that organized. Just getting the people there to certify that the coffee pink is challenging. But the coffee is absolutely free of any kind of toxic input whatsoever. It's shade grown. It is magnificent. It supports your body. Coffee is emerging as a health drink. Dr. Mercola changed his mind. Last week he said, why I'm changing my stance on a health drink. He used to say coffee was bad, bad, bad. Well, coffee with chemicals in it is bad, bad, bad. But real coffee is good, good, good. It lowers death from all causes when people drink it on a regular basis. So people who drink coffee live longer. It reduces or eliminates Parkinson's disease symptoms and signs and prevents it. It's an antioxidant source. It's not surprising that pancreatic cancer levels go down, that senility levels go down, that many of the chronic diseases caused by low antioxidant levels go down. Why? Because good coffee is an antioxidant source, and it's delicious. I have a mug of it right now. Our morning routine is that General Bert gets up earlier than I do to make the coffee in a French press. That is the best way to make it. You get the most flavor. That's basically where you put coffee in the bottom, hot water on top of it, and then you wait a while and squash the water through a strain.
Well, actually, Dr. Rima, General Bert has a much more complex ritual than that, as I recall. And the temperature of the water and the swirling of the coffee grains with some water in the bottom, the whole series of steps, which I'm sure add to the pleasure of the drink.
And it also adds to the pleasure of making it. It's
Yeah.
true. But if you just pour boiling water on top of the coffee and wait 10 minutes and then squash down the stem of the French press very slowly so it doesn't come spouting out the pour spout, you get a cup of extraordinary coffee. If you do it a little more elegantly, you get an even better cup of coffee. But the point is that it's an amazing coffee. It's good for you, and it supports health freedom. Jaminga just said Life Extension magazine is recommending organic coffee as a health drink. Right, this is a health drink, but it's also good for the health of health freedom, because obviously when you make a donation of $25 and pay the shipping and handling, you get wonderful coffee, and you also give us a donation that helps us continue doing what we're doing. Now that brings us to donations, direct donations, small donations, large donations. Now would be a really good time to donate. Frankly, we're having trouble. Why are we having trouble? You know, all those ads that you get in your email box from Natural Solutions, where the advertiser sends us the copy, and because we won't share your email address, we send out the advertising copy. Well, we get paid for those. That's the nature of advertising. And the economy is in case you haven't noticed, pretty bad shape. So we're not getting very many of those ads because they love our list, they love our readers, they love the response, but people have canceled their advertising budgets. Companies have canceled their advertising budgets because they're in trouble financially. So we were asking you less aggressively for donations because we were covering our expenses just with the income from the ads. The income from the ads has dropped off significantly. We have to go back to asking you to step up to the plate. You like health freedom, you like what we do, you care about what's happening, you want to know the news, you want the latest information, you want programs like Dr. Mark Sircus telling you about natural medicine and oncologists and bringing his passion and wisdom to you. Well, you're going to have to pay for it. Really blunt, you're going to have to pay for it. Right now, between 2 and 4% of our supporters, and we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of supporters, but between 2 and 4% of our supporters ever make a donation. That is not fair. That is not fair. If you're one of the 98, 97, 96% of the listeners, of the supporters, who are not making a regular monthly donation of as little as $5, why not? If you didn't care about this, you wouldn't be listening, you wouldn't be a subscriber. So you need to step up to the plate. Ralph, would you please put the donation link on
right. The easiest thing to do, folks, is to go directly to healthfreedomusa.org, and there's the donate button right there. You don't have to remember any fancy link. Healthfreedomusa.org. Donate. Very straightforward.
Set up a recurring donation. If enough people give $5, we won't have to struggle. And you don't want us to spend our energy raising the money to keep on doing what you want us to do. You want us to put our energy into what you want us to do. Let's be clear about the efficiency of this. We can do so much more when we don't have to focus on having the money to pay our basic bills. All of the trustees work without salary. All of the trustees do this because they believe in you.
And take a look at some of the things we've been doing recently. Take a look specifically at Dr. Rima's new video. And this is, and I'm putting a screenshot of the video. I am a vaccine refuser and proud of it. You know, that campaign that we've just begun with that web page, tinyurl.com vaccine refuser, that has to be the most important thing we've been doing in really the past year almost. We have to get that to go viral. We need your help in making that happen. It's so important right now.
Can you put the YouTube link up?
Yes, I will right now.
Okay. And this is interesting. I made this video because I was getting beaten up on a Facebook chat, and I was being told that I wasn't a real doctor and I was endangering people because I didn't believe in vaccines. Understand, it's not about believing. It's either science or it's not. It either works or it doesn't. And if it works, what are you worried about? Because you're protected because you got vaccinated, and I get to die from the horrible disease like whatever it is, toenail fungus, that you've now been vaccinated against and you've vaccinated your kids against. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I finally had quite enough from this yo-yo who was banging on me, and I wrote a reply. And then I decided that was an interesting enough reply to make a video about it. Well, I'd like to read you the reply. Ralph, can you send the link? And I will read my reply.
I'll get that link right now. Yes. Take me a couple of moments.
Do this because it's important, and you do indeed need to take this viral. Please send it to everybody you can. And I would like also to ask you, today is the last day during which the white paper on GDS, Genome Disruption Syndrome, is free. So I want you to go to www.gds-therapy. Whoops, therapy doesn't have all those letters. Mistake. Therapy.com. I want you to go there, and if you haven't gotten the white paper for free, I want you to enter your name, your email, even though you're on our list. It's a separate list. And then I want you to send that link, not the white paper, because we're updating it constantly. I want you to send that link to the people that you care about. Send that link to them so that they can get the white paper. It will not be free after today. It is free today. This is important. Do you have, oh, Jaminga said, I found the white paper to be fascinating. I think you will. I think that there's a huge amount of information there, and I'd love your feedback, by the way. Thank you, Jaminga. I believe that this concept that we were talking about with Dr. Sircus can literally change things in a dramatic way for people who can understand why our methods work, people who can understand finally what we're talking about with them, because it's been very hard for people to figure out why natural medicine is of great importance to them. And it's been hard for people to believe in natural medicine enough to actually try it before they're at the point where they're, they're in absolute despairing urgency. And it's important. It's also chock full of information about what you can do and how you can prevent or treat the chronic degenerative genetic destruction and disruption diseases. If Ralph has the we haven't talked about the news of the week. The news is enormous. Last night was my birthday party. Ralph, would you like to put up some of those photos?
I would be happy to do so. Yes.
I took. I didn't continue taking photos through the whole party because I got involved in conversations, but somebody else was taking photos, and we'll be mounting them. We had moved into a new house here in Chile, and it's a beautiful house, and we decided to have a joint housewarming and birthday party. It was my 70th birthday, and I gave a little talk, which we'll be posting because I think it's useful and informative. And it was our introduction, our coming out party, if you will, in Chile. And the people here included some of the country's leading anti-GMO scientists and some of the country's leading journalists who are on our side, and some of the country's definitive policy-making organic farmers. We had wonderful people, and it was a great party, but we had working discussions all through the this beautiful house that we now live in, and you're welcome to come visit, by the way. And these working discussions were about how we can protect the genome. This concept, they all knew about genes, of course, but they had never thought about genome disruption syndrome. And when they thought about it, they realized that it was the tool that they need to convince Congress here in Chile that GMOs have to be banned in a real way. You see, they're working on a moratorium bill here that would give Chile a 10-year moratorium on GMOs, but the 10-year moratorium would not include, or would allow the propagation of seeds, genetically modified seeds for the United States, Europe, and Africa. They're grown here. They're propagated here in supposedly isolated regions. It would also allow various exemptions for experimental crops, which means that the whole genome would be contaminated while they had a so-called moratorium. This is deceptive sleight of hand, but the members of Congress here believe that they're doing something good because they do not understand the reality of GMOs. And so I was invited last night. Here's how important a party like this is. I was invited last night to address members of Congress individually as an expert for one of the groups working with Congress. And then I was invited to address a hearing, a congressional hearing in Chile on this very issue. And then I was invited to do the same on vaccines. And so we're talking about open-mindedness, and we're talking about politicians who are willing to listen, and environmental medicine departments of the government that are willing to listen. Let me contrast and compare that with the United States. Now, okay, you still live in the United States and you want to continue to live in a radioactive fascist police state. Okay, we will be sending the food supply that we've been talking about to you to help you. We understand that not everybody can or is ready to pick up stakes and move. There are many reasons why it's very difficult, and it is very difficult. But last night, we confirmed with 3 certified organic farmers, and they have very, very high standards here, certified organic farmers, that we will be doing field trials on a technology which we have a patent pending on in the United States, and we'll be filing a patent on Tuesday here in Chile, or we'll be initiating the patent filing here in Chile on Tuesday, to increase crops, organic crops specifically, because I will not allow this technology to be used with conventional agriculture. I have told all the people that we're working with, I don't care that we could make, the foundation could make a great deal of money giving this technology or selling this technology to conventional agriculture, chemical agriculture. I don't want to give them the advantage. I want to give the organic farmers the world, because frankly, organic and biodynamic farmers are among your very best health freedom weapons. As food is being weaponized against our survival, we are turning that weaponization on its head and supporting the organic farmers who provide food that does support life. Just as Life Extension magazine is now recommending organic coffee as a health drink, I am recommending chemical-free, non-GMO food as the only health food. Now, Mike Adams has outed Whole Foods. We've tried to out Whole Foods over the entire period of our existence, but we did not feel that we had the supporter base to boycott Whole Foods, which is what is necessary. The time is ripe, and we salute and support Mike in doing that. The time is right because the consumer is now aware in a new way because of the GMO battle, and the GMO battle specifically in California. The reality is that we are even more powerful than we've ever been in terms of demanding clean food. And this is something that you need to take on for yourself and for other people. When the food supply is ready, when we have completed our field tests and we start our shipping, which shouldn't be very long from now, you need to make this food a priority for yourself. We're going to try very hard to provide it at competitive prices. We're going to try hard, but you have to understand that the only way this will work is with volume. So you need to share this with the people that you know and say, hey, you need to get involved with this friendly food co-op. You need to get involved with buying these foods for yourself and your family. We'll need your help. Anti-corrupt government says, I for sure lately felt I wanted to get some of the coffee, sometimes to also take it to a small coffee shop and restaurant place with a small gift and wedding truck rental shop, also to give them a sample of and let them know the wholesale deal for places like them to also carry. Great. So I want you, Anti-Corrupt, to contact Gail Koba at NSF marketplace.com.
I think it's NSF Marketplace at gmail.com.
It didn't look right.
Yeah.
At gmail.com. And let her know that, because we're going to start selling the coffee in bulk. You can buy it in 25-pound bags or 50-pound bags.
Yep, good idea, Dr. Rima. Dr. Rima, I've been showing people who are watching the video feed the photos that you sent me, including those wonderful photos of those gardens in Chile. But the shot I have on the screen right now is of a group of little dishes with different organic, it says, organic condiments. Was this from your birthday party yesterday?
Oh yeah, this is from the party. These are the shots that I sent you.
Yes.
Are getting ready for the party and the party. Can you put the video up?
I couldn't download the video. It's 260 odd megabytes, and for me to download it would have interfered with the broadcast.
All right.
But I do have a picture of your birthday cake. Let's put that one up.
It was a gorgeous birthday cake. We had a vegetarian chef. I'm not a vegetarian, but she's a great chef. And she said, "Can I do your party?" I said, "Sure, go for it."
Nice cake. Ooh, chocolate strawberry.
Oh yeah.
It's spring where you are, isn't it?
It is spring. Everything is blooming. The azaleas are blooming. The camellias are blooming. It is stunningly beautiful here. Can you put those same pictures on the Health Freedom Portal chat?
I'm not sure. I believe there's a way to do that. Let me, if I can, maybe I can drag. Let me try to drag and drop. Maybe that'll work.
Let's talk about Health Freedom News. Usually we start the program with it. Today we'll end the program with it. First of all, the Seralini study in France, the 2-year feeding study on the rats, has sent shockwaves around the world. Russia has canceled the importation of Monsanto's NK603 corn. France has canceled the importation and growth of Monsanto's 603 NK603 corn. Remember when foods had names, not numbers? There is a huge outcry in the EU to ban Monsanto's corn. There is a huge outcry in the United States to pass Proposition 37 in California and require the labeling. Once the labeling is required, it will be, according to the CEO of Monsanto, are you ready for this? The CEO of Monsanto said, if you require labeling on GMO products in the United States, it's equivalent to putting a skull and crossbones on the package. Yes, that's the point. So, Proposition 37 is really, 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 really important. We have supported it from the beginning. Proposition 37 says you can't sell me stuff that has GMO information or GMO ingredients, and that's information to the body, and has GMO derived material in it, unless you tell me that it's GMO derived, and then I can refuse it, which of course, as you know, is why the FDA has made it illegal to label GMOs. Now, there'll be a very interesting legal battle, and I suspect we'll be in a position to file an amicus brief on this, Ralph.
Yes,
because
indeed.
Several years ago, the FDA got the Congress of the United States to help its friends in Big Agra out. Now, Big Agra and Big Pharma are the same, so they have the same friends, and they are controlled by the industry that they supposedly regulate. They said, Congress, please pass a bill saying that no state can have more stringent food labeling requirements than the federal food labeling requirements. Now, my reading of the Constitution, and I am not a constitutional scholar.
Neither is the president.
Obviously. Yes, he's not a lot of things that he
nor is his opponent, for that matter.
No, this is very scary.
Very.
Every election gets more depressing to me. But anyway, the point is that, oh, by the way, Mitt Romney has ties to the vote counting machine company that's going to count the national vote.
And Bain Capital is one of the companies that gave Monsanto a boost on its way up.
Yeah, there you go. what was I saying? Oh, so there are shockwaves in the GMO labeling world, but the federal government has a law that says that no state can have more stringent requirements for labeling than the federal government, and the federal government does not require labeling. Indeed, it prohibits it. Therefore, there's going to be one hell of a court battle when Proposition 37 passes, and I believe that Proposition 37 will pass. Then Monsanto will, and the biotech industry in general, remember, it's not just Monsanto, it's Pfizer and Syngenta and Hertico and any number, Bayer Crop Sciences, any number of biotech companies. They'll go to court and they'll say, this law, this proposition is illegal, can't be a state decision. And then the states and the federal government are going to duke it out, and it's going to get ugly.
But it's similar things are going on in other areas. Medical marijuana, for example, raw milk. A lot of these issues, 10th Amendment issues, are coming to a head in many ways over the next few years. You know, Dr. Rima, I have that image on the screen. If you put a label on genetically engineered food, you might as well put a skull and crossbones on it. And I thought, gosh, of course they should have a skull and crossbones on genetically engineered food. Proposition 37 isn't going far enough.
Well, exactly. Proposition 37 is only about labeling, so it's a strategic maneuver.
Right.
But, or I should say it's a tactical maneuver, I beg your pardon, but it's a good tactical maneuver. Obviously, what we want is for every GMO field in the world to be burned. We want that. We want that now. But as a tactic, forcing labeling in a country where we know that people will reject GMOs if they are labeled, and so does the FDA, and so does Big Agri, and so does biotech, it's a good move. After that, then we can move for the banning of GMOs, and that's going to be a hot battle too. This is heavy stuff, folks. This is the big money. This is the big depopulation plan. And if you have not yet read Agenda 21, I put the links up last week. If you have not read Agenda 21, Google Agenda 21, text, read it. It's only 40 chapters. You can skim them. They're quite instructive, and they tell you what will happen. What will happen is you won't have any choice about anything. Your job will be assigned. Your living space will be assigned. You will live in a 16-foot by 16-foot cubicle unless you are one of the elite. And I have no doubt that your status in the core of the elite will be indicated by the size of your accommodation. Very, very interesting. You will not be permitted outside of your stack-em-pack-em vertical residences. They're already building them in California to move people into against their will. You will not be permitted to travel. Read Agenda 21. You will not be permitted to travel further than you can bicycle or walk without a special permit. Now let's say that you decide you're the oligarchs, you're the neo-aristocrats, or you're the middle-level management, and you want to get rid of the sector in Santa Monica. You cut off the water supply. You stop shipping in food. You send in a cholera contaminated water supply, and then you do nothing. Do you understand? Do you understand? This is not science fiction. This is not some dystopian fantasy. This is what the globalists have in store for you and your children.
It's literally turning the whole planet into Auschwitz.
Exactly. And everybody's a slave laborer unless they rise up through the ranks so they're born into the right bloodlines. Is that what you want? Do you want genetically modified infertility cancer food for yourself and your children? If you do not, you must become active and involved. Send out the www.gds-therapy.com link. Tell people what's happening. Send out the action alerts. Send a donation. I mean, we're not asking you to send more money than you can afford, but you can afford $1 a week. You can afford $5 a week, 10, 15. If you can afford $10,000, God bless you, we need it. And then if you have more access to assets, then you need to invest in the Fund for Natural Solutions. We are working against the globalist agenda, people. We are working to save your lives and your children's lives. Now, if that's not important enough for you to donate for, there's something terribly wrong, and, you know, why are we wasting our time? But I don't believe that's the case at all. I believe you care. I believe you know and you care, and you need to take effort. Now, we're under attack. We're under attack all the time in multiple ways. And it costs money to counter those attacks. We need your help. We need your investment. We are doing wonderful things for you in terms of information flow, in terms of redesigning the website. You're going to love the new website. The old website is hard to use. There's no question about that. The new website will be wonderfully easy to use. We're putting a lot of effort into that. Ralph, tell us about the milk case in Wisconsin. This is an enormous victory.
One of our favorite groups of the Weston Price Foundation and their defense fund helped coach a gentleman who doesn't run a raw milk dairy particularly, but runs the organization that links the raw milk cows to individuals who own them. They're kept at a dairy, and then the co-op, of which he's the manager, goes to the dairy, gets the raw milk, and brings it to the customers who own the cow. So they're just getting milk from their own cow, you know. And of course, he was accused in Minnesota. You know, didn't cross state lines, so the feds didn't go after him. He was accused in Minnesota of violating Minnesota's various and sundry multiple milk control laws. Minnesota being a major dairy state, so it has lots of milk control laws. We say barriers against entry and monopolization laws, but they say that they're for public safety. Anyway, he's arrested, charged with multiple counts of various violations of licensing and regulating laws, and it goes before a jury, and the jury hears it, and the jury refuses to convict. The interpretation is jury nullification, that the jury understood exactly what they were doing, and that they were refusing to convict because they want to stop the government's war on raw milk. This is what happened, of course, with alcohol prohibition. The government could not get juries to convict people, and the whole scheme fell apart. Not unlike what we did with the 2009 swine flu vaccine panic, when we got people to tell their legislators by the millions that they were refusers, and the whole scheme collapsed. That's why, by the way, we ask you please to join us in becoming vaccine refusers. Go to that tinyurl.com/vaccine refuser and use the action item to tell your state and national legislators that you too are a vaccine refuser.
You know, Ralph, we have to have a bumper sticker that says vaccine refuser and proud of it.
Indeed. It's time to really do that.
How do we make a bumper sticker?
Yep, there are companies on the internet that do that for us. We can have bumper stickers, and actually people would choose what they want. It could be a T-shirt, a bumper sticker, a mug, and it would have whatever logo we've set up.
We need a graphic artist who is clever about this to do a design. Let's have a contest. Let's have a vaccine refuser and proud of it graphic contest on
nice
the
idea.
next
E-Blast.
blast.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Let's give people, a a prize and some exposure, and make sure that we have a bumper sticker that says vaccine refuser and proud of it.
Indeed. And we've got some good images that we've been working on with our new webmaster. Right now, I have one of those images on the screen. It's the Dr. Rima GDS Genome Disruption Syndrome banner, and it's in the new color scheme and all of that. So this is the sort of the beginning of the look and feel of the new entree into everything we've been doing. The Free World Network is about to be up again on our own, actually physically controlled by us server. We won't tell you where it is. It's at a hidden location, far from Dr. Rima and far from me and far from Bert. So we're getting ready to be able to protect your access to this information on a level that we haven't achieved heretofore.
That's really important, folks. What we're doing is setting up our own server in a secret location so that we can limit the effectiveness of the attacks. How about that?
And that was done because we've gotten a donation, because even the special rack being built for the server with special fans on it to keep it cool, because we're running it 24/7. Even that was donated to us by a supporter. But the monthly rental for the physical space where the rack is going to sit, we need to cover. So we need your help, folks.
So it may seem like this is just an easy thing to do, and it's an off-the-cuff deal. Wrong. It occupies me more than full-time. It occupies Ralph more than full-time, and it occupies General Burt more than full-time. Ralph's wife handles the dr.labo@gmail.com emails, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of them. We are working very, very hard on all of these pieces and projects and bits, and we need your support. Let me be quite clear. We need people to assist us, and they don't work for free. We really need more staff, and until we have the financial base, we can't have more staff. And your health freedom is not being served as well as it should be because of that.
Another thing I should point out, Dr. Rima, is that there's a bit of a firewall between Natural Solutions Foundation, the entity in the U.S. that's doing all these things, that does it based on your donations, and the Deep South project, which involves the creation of the food flow. We need investment money to make that happen. And those funds are separate, and that's why the Fund for Natural Solutions should not be confused with the Natural Solutions Foundation. Your donations to the foundation keep our doors open internationally, in terms of the websites, in terms of the action items, in terms of the e-blasts. The people who are putting funds into the Fund for Natural Solution are supporting the creation of the food supply, the recreation and expansion of the Dr. Rima Institute, which will be in Chile, and the General Burt Multi-Sensor Project, among others, projects that are intended to be profitable in the sense that they have to be sustainable, and they're going to be paying back the investors at a decent rate. That's the distinction, and that's why those of you who are in a position to consider putting in a minimum of $10,000 into the Fund for Natural Solutions need to contact me directly so we can discuss how that's done. This is an SEC-filed private equity fund, and we can't make an offer except by private placement memo, so we need to speak to you. Some of you have contacted me in the past week or so. We're going to be sending out the most updated version of the Planetary Vision program, the program that tells you what the current plans are to make sure that you understand what we're doing with the funds that we're raising. Separate activities, and we need them both to make a change in the world.
That's a very, very important point. I'm glad you made that.
And Dr. Rima, we have 2 minutes before the end of the program. Go ahead.
Exactly. This has been an extremely, extremely vital show, and this has been an extremely good week for health freedom, but we are certainly not out of the woods, and we have so much to do. We need your support and participation at every level, as a disseminator, as a donator, as a doer, and as an investor. Whatever level or however many levels you are able to participate in, that's the right level for you. This is the time. We are at a crossroads. We've been at crossroads before. When the swine flu compulsory vaccination program came up, we were at a crossroads, and we forced the United States government to choose the correct road, which was not vaccinating us against our will. We can do that again, but we have to get active again. Now, our supplements are under another attack. Yes, another attack. The FDA has decided to ban yet another of the very few bioavailable forms of B6 in order to be able to turn it into a drug for one of their pharma company friends. Not acceptable. That's another action area where you have to take the actions. You know, I'm sorry that there are so many areas where we're under attack. I would love nothing better than for there to be just one or two, but there are a lot, and we have to be vigilant. Thomas Jefferson said, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Well, yeah, it is. And so I'm asking you for eternal health freedom, vigilance, and for your financial participation. And I am so glad to be spending my 70th birthday with you in this way, joining you, joining my hand with you, joining my heart with you, joining my mind with you, and celebrating the fact that we have only victory ahead of us if we act correctly, together, rapidly, and decisively.
Thank you ever so much, Dr. Rima, and happy birthday to you. Happy birthday indeed.
Thank you. We'll be back next week
on the Dr. Rima Truth Reports. And the bumper music.
Sneaking up on our freedoms, destroying our health, shredding the Constitution, taking away our wealth. But we're the men and women following freedom's trail, following where the truth leads, we will prevail. Sneaking up on our freedoms, destroying our health, shredding the Constitution, taking away our wealth. But we're the men and women following freedom's trail, following where the truth leads.